So we see that this word asher is separated out from what's come from before. So this person who's going to be pushing the message forward from here on in is going to have all that represents the backbone of the ideas. That it's not actually referring to the person; it's referring to the concepts that he's going to take from you, and he's going to be able to move those concepts forward. So the first part of ki'im is talking about the person, and asher is talking about the knowledge that he's going to pass forward. Yetzeh, again with another munach, number 10. So this is separated out from what's come from before, but moving forward into what's going to go afterwards. There will be someone. So again, we've moved from person to the items that he's going to transmit back to the person, and that's why we have all of these separating notes. Number 10, there will be someone who shall be going out to assume his assignment and continue the principles which you have inaugurated as conveyed by the shape of the reading mark. So this is again going to be something that that person is going to propagate from here forward. Mi me'echa, with the two-part katon. This will be, quote, your own descendant who shall not only a physical derivative from your insides, but in him also shall your ideas and spirit be reproduced, as depicted by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. Generally, a quote-unquote gut feeling, something that you have on the inside, is something that you feel with intensity to know if it is right or if it is wrong. So it gives you an immediate sense of an immediate and intense sense of, is this the correct thing or is this the wrong thing? And not only will this person be physically related to you, but he will have that same emotional bent or philosophical bent that will tell him right from wrong with a strong compass, with the idea that I know this is right, or I know this is wrong, and it will be an immediate, literally visceral sense that he will have. He, with a tifcha, so this is going to go back to what we said from before and pause slightly afterwards. Not only shall he convince you about his entitlement to continue your style of life, but he will also be most appreciated by you to do so, as referred backwards by the directional shape of the reading mark. So this is going backwards and saying this person is going to satisfy Avram's desire to say that this was looked after properly. This is not only something that he's going to get an heir who's going to propagate his message, but Avram was questioning, I don't get it. How do I get to the next step from here? And God is saying, not only will you get it, but you will appreciate the fact that you got it, and you'll see in this person who's going to pass it on after you, that there was a full and complete and proper transmission, and you'll get the satisfaction of that. And that's why the Tipcha points back to Avram.
The person who's appreciating it, though, is his heir, not... Is it Avram?
It's mutual.
He will be most appreciated by you to do so. The heir, Yitzchak, is going to not only do it right, not only both in terms of being the person and getting the concepts and getting the moral sense of right and wrong, but it's going to be so evident that it's going to satisfy Avram's question of, Bama Eda, how am I going to know? He will know. Avram's going to get the satisfaction of knowing because of this backwards tipcha. Yirashecha will inherit you. And this has the stabilizing sof pasuk. Actually, you shall contribute your great efforts to make of him a suitable heir, because he will inherit you. So, separate from the fact that it's going to be somebody who passes everything on and who understands everything and who gives you satisfaction, he's not only going to have all of those qualities, but he is going to be the one who gets to be the head of this after you. He's going to literally inherit everything that was Avram. So as we read through the pasuk, we're going to notice that the word Hine has a slight pause after it. So this is going to be the message to Avram. Don't worry. This is going to work out. And Dvar Hashem elav lemor, what God said to him to say, is going to stand as a singular phrase. That this is going to be direct nevuah. Lo yirashcha. That the fears that you had are not going to be are not going to come true. The word zeh is going to stand all by itself, and I think we explained that quite well. Ki'im, because only, and again we're going to separate out all of these words. Asher, Yetzei Mimeacha, that this is the person and his understanding of the concepts and his sense of right and wrong. Who, this person, is going to focus back on you, so that's going to be separated out. And he's going to be the proper and permanent heir, so he's going to be standing at the top of the pyramid himself, and he's going to be standing alone at the end of the sentence as we leave him alone with the pause after the tipcha and the pause after the sof pasuk. V'hinei Dvar Hashem elav lemor lo yirashcha ze ki'im asher yetzei mimeacha hu yirashecha.
Can I ask, there was a munach at Asher and a munach
Right.
at Yetzei, but you sang them
So when you
differently.
have two munachs next to each other, the first one always has a different cantillation. So if the words are connected and it's just a single thought, then it'll just be like there's a one munach there. But usually when you have either munach revi'i, or this phrase pashta munach zakef katon, this is the way it's cantillated because the first one has to stand by itself. But yeah, this instance there's no psik, but munach revi'i has a psik. And I will look up and see if it's got. It does not have a different name to it. But the question is there a rule why there's no psik there? And I've got a sefer where I can look in and see that. And we're going to continue on, 15.5, bottom of page 79. No, it's okay. Vayotze, and he took out with a kadma, so this is a phrase, kadma v'yazlach. This looks like a pashta, but it's more intimately connected to the note afterwards. Number 1 on the next page. In relation to the beginning and end of the previous sentence, God announced a proper successor for Avram, and he took out his prior position to be placed on a higher level, as indicated by the directional shape of the reading mark. So if we look in Rashi and in the Zohar and pretty well all of the Meforshim, they take this phrase "Vayotzeato hachutza," that God took him outside, to have both a pshat, that he took him outside of the tent so he could see the stars, and to have a drash, literally he took him out of the reality of the world and showed him either from the heavens above looking down on reality, or took him completely out of reality so that he could see the reality of the world. And There are some references in some of the places to say that he's taking him out of his zodiac sign. He's taking him out of what he would be able to have predicted. So the physics always says, if you can get this general theory of everything, that you could literally calculate what was going to happen if you had enough inputs, as long as you had the right equation. And Judaism does have that concept that nature is something that does follow such a theory, that you could literally take all of the inputs at a particular moment and calculate what the future would be from there. But we have a phrase that the Gemara brings that says, for Jews there's no mazal. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that Jews are unlucky. Mazal is this concept of, if you understood everything that's going to happen by the nature of the universe, and we're able to plug it into the right equation, and we're able to predict it, Jews have the ability to do things that equation would not predict. So you actually have the ability to go outside of nature. So I think we said this before, but I'm going to put it on the tape again here, because here's where it's referenced. So what's happening when you say to someone, Mazal Tov, when something nice happens? What are you telling them? You're telling them that this should be the starting point. If this is just what nature is giving you, and you can exceed this new baby, or this new wedding, or this new whatever, is just a starting point, and that should be your natural, what you were going to inherit, and you can get even more than that. So this should be, the goodness of what you've got should be just the beginning, and you can get even more. So you're saying, Mazal Tov, this should be, the way that it is, should be the base from which you can build and get even more. So Vayotze, and he took out. So here we're not really following any of that, but I wanted all of us to have that in our minds, just so that we see what we're contrasting against.
Can I ask something again about Pashta? Is that it visually, it stands on top of the word and looks outward,
right?
like Sophim, like scouts that
Okay.
look outward. So oftentimes when I read it, I get the impression that we're talking about somebody who's got a vista, a long vista to the future, or a long philosophical vista.
So this note is actually not a pashta. This one is kadma v'azla.
Okay.
Which has a little bit of different rules to it. So this is a connecting note, not a separating note.
But
even
it's
though
about
it looks
the word.
even though it looks exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to elevate the concept of the word,
Mm-hmm.
and point us forward to the next word, and it's going to also connect us to the next word, whereas a pashta separates us from the next word.
Mm-hmm.
So this particular one is going to be a little different than every pashta that you've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, in fact, is like a mercha that has some light connection to stuff before. This one also has a light connection to what's come from before and is pushing forwards. But it's doing it in an elevated sense because it is above the word.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we'll read through number one in relation to the beginning and end of the previous sentence. So connecting note now. Tied to the thing that just came from before. God announced a proper successor for Avram, and he took out his prior position to be placed on a higher level. Again, top of the word, as indicated by the directional shape of the reading line. Looking forward from there to what Avram is going to be given, and what that's going to mean to him. So all of that comes out in the Kadma. Oto, number two, with him, the matching and closing note. Again, emphasizing on top of the word, closing the phrase attached to what's come from before, and then pause afterwards. Avram's position did not relate to any physical locale, which could be described by a neighborhood or measurements, but it was referred to, quote, to capital H, him, with regard to his reproductive status to achieve completion, as shown by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. And I'm pretty sure when he uses him as with a capital H, he's referring to Hashem. I don't think it's referring to Avram. So Avram is not going, like Rashi says in the Pshat, outside of the tent where he can see the stars. Rather, he's going to be in a place where he can see what Hashem sees. He's going to be in a place where he is in the direct alignment with what Hashem sees from that vantage. Hachutza, towards the outside, with the broad pausing revi'i, which is going to focus us on the word and let us stop slightly afterwards. Number 3, Avram was transferred towards the outside of established biological laws of nature. Hachutza, lachutz derech hateva. So again, this is what we said from before. This does match what Rashi second and the Zohar and most of the Mefarshim say, that Avram is told that Jews have the ability to go outside the laws of nature, by which Avram had to remain sterile. So the beginning of the Sedra, as stressed by the broad reading of the reading mark. So Avram, when again you look into what nature gives to Avram, Avram is a great father, i.e., he looks after the people who come with him, but he is not somebody who has inheritors. He's not somebody who is going to have generations that follow. He's going to be an inspirational leader, but he's not going to be a parent. So Avram is told that he can be, and again, Avram asked the question. I looked at all of the stuff that I've got. I look at my skills. I look at my knowledge. I look at my possessions. And I look at my mazal, what the universe holds for me. I don't see anything more. And he's told that he can go outside of that. Number 4, and he said, this is a plain pashta, so this is 2 pashtaot. Again, pashta has a place, it is on the last syllable of the word, and if we have a different syllable in the word that actually gets the accent, then we put a second pashta on the accented syllable, so that we see that there's a pashta on the yud and a pashta on the resh. The normal one sits on the resh, and the extra one, because it's not vayomer, it's vayomer. So because we're putting the stress on the yud, it gets the second pashta, so this is going to have double meaning to it. God said to Avram to go out, Lech Lecha, from his country, and he said to him at this time that his personal position was changed by a newly established law for Avram only, like at creation, Vayomer Elokim Hior, that the universe all of a sudden had a different way to look at itself, or a different thing within itself. So he's saying that this Vayomer is just like that a new reality, something that wasn't there before, is now being established, as denoted by the double directional shape of the reading mark. So because we've got the 2 pashtaot, this word Vayomer is referring us back to Vayomer Elokim Hior, is bringing us back to the fact that this Vayomer, creating something new, is exactly what's happening here. God is saying, you're somebody who's going to be different from every person who's been on the earth up until you. You're going to be somebody who can go outside of the rules, and other things can happen for you, if you believe that they can. Habetna, with a munach, so this separates itself out from what's come from before and then moves forward. Look please, number 5. God suggested to Avram, look please into the infinite, because anything that did not happen before could become a reality when least expected. Human assumptions are limited, inaccurate, and frequently misleading, as suggested by the shape of the reading mark. So what you thought the universe was like from before, there's more than that. And when you try to think of questions about the infinite, invariably you run into paradoxes. Can God create a rock so heavy that he can't lift it? And right, so when you're pondering something that's infinite, and you try to pose a finite problem for something that's infinite, then the finite problem loses its definition. There's no such question that can be asked because it just doesn't grasp the concept of infinite. So, you know, in math, you always had that infinity plus one, you know? What if it were one more than that? Well, that doesn't really make sense, but it's nice for equations. So there's no such thing as infinity plus one, but we can posit that there might be something like that. So when we ask a question of the infinite, the answer all of a sudden is that the question is an inappropriate question rather than giving an answer to the question. So what we're saying here is Avram is given the opportunity to say, you know what the rules of the game are? You're allowed to cheat. And this is the insight that he's being given. That there are ways around what seems to be the rules. We have a second note here, MB. By this, Avram had taught a lesson to maintain hope in all situations of despair and not exclude a positive solution at the end, which may be derived from the above. So Avram is told that, again, the rules of the game don't necessarily apply to you, and when the situation seems impossible, there is actually a solution, and you need to have faith that you're in a position of protection where that impossible will be available to you. Number 6, Hashamaima with a rivi-e, so this is going to have broadness to it and is going to stop us at that word. Towards the heavens, number 6. When one directs his views towards the heavens, he may come to two useful conclusions. He may realize his own insignificance, and B, he may notice that he is the center of the skies in any given position, as pointed out by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. Sorry, it's a katon, it's not a rivi-e. That is my mistake. It is a katon. So this is a two-part note. And again, this is the paradox that's introduced to Avram, that Avram is the most important of all the creations, but he's the one that's created last. So either he can say that he is the most important thing, that's why he was created last, or he can be just the least significant thing because everything else was created before him. So Avram gets both of those perspectives when he's given this message. That again is part of Jewish philosophy, that we see that we have this incredible importance and this incredible potential, but that can't be the focus of what we gear our lives towards, because if we assert our ego as the most important thing, then the universe will slap us down and say, no, you're the thing that was created last, everything else is more important than you. And if, on the other hand, we use our talents and the things that we're given to try to do things that are appropriate and do things that advance the God-given plan of the world, then we become the driver of that, and our decisions make us the most important thing, and the rest of the world was created for us. Number 7. Usfor, and count, with a pashta. And again, this is going to pause slightly afterwards and make the word important. Number 7, while looking upwards, and again, we're using this now as just a directional beacon, that it's pointing us upwards. You will notice many of the bodies of light, although they represent great worlds and serve a purpose, try to estimate their amount and count them, as expressed by the directional shape of the reading mark. So the concept of looking up at stars and planets and realizing that they're stars and planets isn't something that came when you look at the Rishonim, when you look way back before there was a telescope and you could say that the moon was actually a rock. The stars and the planets all were given features of animals because they behaved erratically. Some of them just moved in a way that they shouldn't move. And until you understood the concepts of orbits and so on, you had to give them some character so that you could understand why they would move erratically. So the fact that this answer is science-based is something that is also within Torah. We're supposed to use our Mada, our science, our ability to grasp God's creations to further allow us to move forward within this world with more and more understanding as we see more of the secrets that God has hidden within the universe. So I always have to pause when I see somebody saying something like this and put it in context. Because again, if you look at somebody from the 9th and 10th century, he wouldn't say something like this. So you have to realize that this is timely and this is right. Number 8. Hakochavim, with both a munach and a katon. So this is a rakef katon on the single word. So it's got separation from what's come from before, moving forward, then pausing and saying two things. Lots of things to squeeze into one word. Those are the stars which are larger, smaller, brighter, or hazier on one or on another side of the sky. So we've got all of those notes to tell us that. We're looking at all the different stars, all the different planets. They could be this one, they could be a big one, they could be a small one, they could be an important one, they could be an unimportant one. As specified by the variety of shapes and placements of the reading marks. So again, the variety shows up in the richness of the note. Im tuchal, if you would manage, with a tipcha, backwards focus, pausing afterwards. Number 9, there are so many in number and function that if you would manage to try to estimate roughly the amount of one area, you would fail, as referred backwards by the directional shape of the reading mark. So when you look back at the stars and you try to squeeze the finite into something that is infinite, all of a sudden it doesn't make sense. It's not something that you can do. And the message here to Avram is, when you're looking at something that has infinity, all of a sudden your ability to count, your ability to say there are exactly 10 billion goes away. So he's trying to give him a task that is going to give him some concept of how infinity could exist and how there could be something that is more than what you would normally try to derive scientifically.
This is the Carl Sagan statement of the time. Billions and billions and it makes you feel very insignificant.
So this is beyond that. This is saying that if you could create the number, you wouldn't necessarily be correct, because there are other instances and possibilities that might mean that there are more somewhere else, and more somewhere else, and more somewhere else that is hidden from your view. So it's not that if you had the